The silent departure. The galaxy had always taken humans for granted. For 3 centuries, humanity had been but a single thread in the tapestry of galactic civilization, a curious species from a backwater solar system that had somehow managed to secure a place at the table of interstellar powers. They weren't the strongest militarily, nor did they control the most territory. They weren't even particularly long-lived compared to species like the ancient Zothari, whose individuals could witness the birth and death of stars. No, humans were just there, present, reliable, unremarkable, until they weren't. The first sign that something had changed came at the Centauri trading hub, where the automated human merchant vessels that had arrived like clockwork every 36 cycles simply failed to appear. The Vrexian dock managers barely noticed, assigning the vacant berths to other ships without a second thought. The second sign came when the Galactic Communication Network experienced brief, seemingly random outages in sectors where human technicians had maintained relay stations. The Dorlani Communication Guild dispatched repair crews, grumbling about human unreliability. By the 3rd week, the Galactic Council's administrative AI flagged an anomaly. All human representatives had missed scheduled appearances. All human diplomatic channels were silent. All human colonies and stations were failing to respond to standard hails. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Surely this is some kind of human deception. First Minister Zextoril of the Vrexian Imperium declared during an emergency council session. His chitinous mandibles clicked with irritation as he addressed the gathered representatives. They've always been unpredictable. This is likely another one of their bizarre negotiation tactics. Ambassador Lithvera of the Dorlani Collective adjusted her luminescent robes and fixed the Vrexian with a stern gaze. This is not a negotiation tactic, Minister. I have reports from 17 systems. Human settlements are empty. Ships drift abandoned in space. There are no bodies, no signs of struggle. They're simply gone. Good riddance, muttered Warlord Krask of the Monterey Federation, his gravelly voice carrying across the chamber despite his attempt at discretion. They were always disruptive to established protocols. High Elder Dylos of the Zothari Conclave, the oldest being in the chamber by several millennia, leaned forward on his crystalline staff. His ancient eyes narrowed as he surveyed the council. "You are all fools," he said, his voice like stone grinding against stone. "You haven't noticed, have you?" The chamber fell silent. "Noticed what, Elder?" asked Ambassador Lithvera. "The quantum communication network is degrading. The stabilization fields at the Cygnus Black Hole Research Station are fluctuating. The automated defense systems along the outer rim are reporting calibration errors." Elder Azelos tapped his staff against the floor. "All systems humans help design or maintain." First Minister Zextoril waved a dismissive claw. "These are minor issues. Our engineers will correct them." "Will they?" Elder Tylos challenged. "Tell me, Minister, do your engineers understand the principles behind the quantum entanglement transmitters? Can your scientists explain how the gravitational stabilizers at research outposts function, or why the predictive algorithms in our defense networks continue to anticipate threats before they manifest?" Uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. "As I suspected," Elder Tylos continued, "for 3 centuries, we have integrated human technology into our infrastructure without truly understanding it. We've relied on their maintenance, their innovations, their silent contributions to our civilization." The silence deepened as the implications sank in. "It's worse than you think," came a new voice. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the chamber. Admiral Thex of the Galactic Survey Corps, his normally composed features betraying unusual concern. "We're receiving reports of system failures across the galaxy. The antimatter containment fields at the Proxima Energy Hub are destabilizing. The terraforming equipment on New Dorland is malfunctioning. The medical synthesis facilities in the outer colonies are producing flawed medications." Panic rippled through the chamber. "How is this possible?" demanded Warlord Krask. Humans were just one species among hundreds, a species that specialized in solving problems. Elder Kailos replied. While we focused on expanding our territories and maintaining our traditional technologies, humans quietly solved the unsolvable. They fixed what we couldn't fix. They maintained what we didn't understand. And most critically, they never insisted we understand what they built. First Minister Zextoral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Are you suggesting our entire galactic infrastructure is dependent on human maintenance? Not all of it, Admiral Thex responded, his hologram flickering slightly. But enough. Critical systems across multiple sectors were designed or modified by humans, systems we've taken for granted for decades. Ambassador Lithvera's bioluminescent patterns shifted to dark blue, indicating deep distress. Why would they leave without warning? Where would they go? That, said Elder Dylos, is what we must discover before it's too late. The Council dispatched investigation teams to every known human settlement, but each report brought back the same findings. Humans had vanished without a trace. Their belongings remained. Their technologies hummed with power, but the humans themselves were gone. On the former human colony of New Terra, scientist-investigator Talia Dex of the Dorlani Collective examined an abandoned human dwelling. Unlike her colleagues, who searched for conventional evidence, Talia was examining something far more subtle, the code running on human systems. "This is strange," she murmured, her sensory tendrils glowing with concentration as she interfaced with the human computer network. "What have you found?" asked her assistant, a young Vrexian named Zexmira. "The automated systems are still running perfectly, but there's something embedded in the code, recurring patterns that don't serve any obvious function." Talia's bioluminescent patterns shifted to green as she concentrated. "It's almost like..." She fell silent, her tendrils pulsing rapidly. "Like what?" prompted Zexmira. "Like a countdown," Talia whispered. "Every human system I've examined contains the same embedded sequence, a timer counting down to something." Zexmira's mandibles clicked nervously. "To what?" "I don't know," Talia admitted. "But at the current rate, whatever it's counting toward will happen in approximately 60 galactic standard days." Across the galaxy, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Critical systems that had functioned flawlessly for decades began failing at an alarming rate. Without human engineers to maintain their specialized technologies, entire planetary infrastructures teetered on the brink of collapse. The Vrexian agricultural worlds reported crop failures as the atmospheric regulators malfunctioned. The Monterey Federation faced rebellion as their energy distribution network faltered. The Dorlani Collective watched helplessly as their medical technology, much of it built on human innovations, became increasingly unreliable. In the grand archives of the Zothera Conclave, Elder Kailos consulted records stretching back to humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. He searched for patterns, for clues, anything that might explain their sudden departure. What he found disturbed him deeply. "We have made a terrible mistake," he announced to the reconvened Galactic Council. "For centuries, we have dismissed humans as simple, short-lived creatures. We have exploited their innovations without acknowledgement. We have taken without giving in return." He activated a holographic display showing human diplomatic communications stretching back decades, communications that had been routinely ignored or dismissed by the Council. "They warned us," Elder Tylos continued. "They told us their systems required regular maintenance. They offered to teach us their methods. They requested recognition for their contributions. And we ignored them." The council chamber was silent as the truth settled over them like a shroud. "Did they leave because of us?" Ambassador Lithvera asked, her voice barely audible. "Perhaps," Elder Tylos replied. "Or perhaps they left because of something else, something they saw coming that we did not." First Minister Zextoral slammed his claw against the table. "Whatever their reasons, we must find them. The galaxy depends on their return." "For once, we agree," growled Warlord Krask. "Even my finest warriors cannot fight failing life support systems or collapsing energy grids." Admiral Thex's hologram flickered into view again. "There may be a way. Our analysts have discovered something unusual about the countdowns embedded in human systems. They all converge at a specific set of coordinates." "What's at those coordinates?" asked Ambassador Lithvera. "Nothing, according to our star charts," Admiral Thex replied. "Empty space, far from any known system." "Then that's where we'll go," decided First Minister Zex Toril. "We'll assemble our fastest ships, our brightest minds. We must find the humans and convince them to return." "And if they refuse?" asked Warlord Krask. Elder Tylos fixed the warlord with an ancient, weary gaze. "Then, my friend, we will finally learn what it means to stand alone in this galaxy, without the silent guardians we never appreciated until they were gone." The desperate search. The expedition to the mysterious coordinates was the most diverse assembly of species and vessels the galaxy had seen in centuries. Desperation had accomplished what diplomacy never could, uniting the fractious civilizations under a common purpose. The Vrexian Imperium contributed their fastest scout ships. The Dorlani Collective sent their most brilliant scientists. The Monterey Federation dispatched elite warriors, while the Zotheri Conclave provided ancient wisdom in the form of Elder Tylos himself. Admiral Thex commanded the flagship, a Dorlani vessel aptly renamed Last Hope. As the fleet departed from the central hub world of Galaxia Prime, millions watched, their diverse physiologies united in a single emotion: fear. Aboard the Last Hope, scientist-investigator Talia Dex continued her analysis of human code, searching for any clue that might help their mission succeed. Her research space was cluttered with holographic projections, dissected fragments of human technology floating in the air around her. "You should rest," said Admiral Thex, entering her laboratory. "We won't reach the coordinates for another 12 cycles." Talia's bioluminescent patterns flickered with irritation. "How can I rest when every system I examine raises more questions than answers?" She gestured to the projections. "Look at this code structure. It's unlike anything in our databases." Admiral Thex studied the floating symbols with a frown. "What am I looking at?" "This is the base code for a human atmospheric processor, technology we've used for terraforming dozens of worlds." Talia manipulated the projection, highlighting specific sections. "But embedded within it are patterns that serve no functional purpose. They're almost like..." "Like what?" prompted Thex. "Like signatures," Talia replied. "Individual markers unique to each human programmer. They called them Easter eggs, hidden messages or features." Thex raised an eyebrow. "Why would they hide messages in functional code?" "That's what I've been asking myself," Talia said. "At first, I thought they were just cultural oddities. Humans were known for their peculiar sense of humor. But now I'm wondering if they were leaving breadcrumbs all along, preparing for this moment." "You think they planned their disappearance?" "I think they knew something we didn't," Talia replied. "Something important enough to abandon everything they'd built." As the fleet journeyed toward the mysterious coordinates, the situation throughout the galaxy continued to deteriorate. The countdown timers embedded in human technology ticked relentlessly forward, and with each passing cycle, more critical systems failed. On the Vrexian agricultural world of Harvesta, the atmospheric processors shut down completely, exposing delicate crops to toxic elements in the planet's natural atmosphere. Billions faced starvation. In the Dorlani medical facilities, synthetic medication production ceased, leaving countless patients without life-sustaining treatments. The Monterey defense grid collapsed, leaving their territories vulnerable to the predations of the savage Kholdar raiders from the galactic fringe. Each failure cascade traced back to a single truth: the galaxy had built its foundation upon human innovation without understanding the architecture. On the 10th day of their journey, the fleet encountered something unexpected: a debris field floating in otherwise empty space. "Analysis?" Admiral Thex demanded, studying the scattered fragments on the view screen. Artificial construction, reported the sensor officer. Materials consistent with human manufacturing techniques, but the configuration is unlike any known human vessel or station. Bring us closer, Thex ordered, and prepare an exploration team. As the Last Hope maneuvered through the debris field, the true scale of the destruction became apparent. Whatever had existed here hadn't been a ship or a station. It had been massive, perhaps the size of a small moon. The exploration team, consisting of Talia, 2 Monteri warriors, and a Zotheri archivist, boarded a small fragment large enough to support an internal atmosphere. What they found left them speechless. This was a gateway, Talia reported back to the fleet, her voice trembling with excitement. A massive transportation device, unlike anything in our records. A gateway to where? Asked Thex over the communication channel. Unknown, Talia replied, her tendrils interfacing with the fragment's remaining systems. But the power requirements were astronomical. Whatever this connected to, it was vast distances away, possibly even beyond our galaxy. Are you suggesting the humans built an intergalactic transport system and didn't inform the Council? First Minister Zextoral's voice cut in, his tone incredulous. That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Talia confirmed. And based on the damage patterns, it wasn't destroyed accidentally. This was deliberate sabotage, executed with precision to ensure the gateway couldn't be reconstructed. The humans destroyed their own creation, Elder Hylos observed. The question is, after they used it, or to prevent its use. The fleet continued toward the coordinates, the debris field raising more questions than it answered. They arrived 2 days later at the precise location indicated by the countdown timers, an unremarkable section of empty space. Or so it appeared. Something's wrong with the sensors, reported the Phyrexian navigation officer. They're detecting nothing. Explain, demanded Admiral Thex. Not just an absence of objects, sir, the officer clarified, mandibles clicking in confusion. An absence of everything. No cosmic background radiation, no gravitational influences, no quantum fluctuations. It's as if this section of space simply doesn't exist within normal parameters. Elder Kylos moved to the view screen, his ancient eyes narrowing. It's a blind spot, he said softly. A deliberate manipulation of space-time to conceal something from detection. Can we penetrate it? Asked Thex. Perhaps, Talia interjected, her tendrils flaring with sudden inspiration. The countdown timers, they're not just counting down. They're encryption keys. Her fingers flew across the interface as she uploaded the decoded timer sequences to the ship's sensors. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a veil being lifted, the view screen changed. Where empty space had been moments before, a massive structure now appeared. A perfectly spherical construction the size of a small planet, its surface covered with intricate patterns that pulsed with soft blue light. By the first ancestors, whispered Zextoral. What is that? Before anyone could respond, the sphere emitted a pulse of energy that washed over the fleet. Ship systems flickered momentarily, then stabilized, but something had changed. A communication channel had opened. A voice spoke, a human voice. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council. We've been expecting you. The bridge crew froze in shock. Identify yourself, Admiral Thex demanded, recovering first. I am Director Elena Chen, custodian of the continuity sphere. I speak on behalf of humanity. Where are your people? Asked Elder Xylos, stepping forward. Why did you abandon the galaxy? There was a pause before Director Chen responded, her voice carrying a weight of sadness. We didn't abandon the galaxy, Elder Xylos. We saved it, at great cost to ourselves. Explain, demanded Zextoral. 3 years ago, our deep space observatories detected something approaching the galaxy, something ancient and vast. We called it the Void Current, a stream of anti-reality that consumes everything in its path. Our scientists determined it would reach the galaxy's edge within 5 years, and when it did, all life would simply cease. Stunned silence filled the bridge. We brought our findings to the council. Director Chen continued. 3 times we presented the evidence. 3 times we were dismissed as alarmists, our data rejected as flawed. The council was too concerned with territorial disputes and trade negotiations to listen to warnings of extinction. Elder Tylos closed his eyes, remembering the human emergency protocols. We thought they were seeking special resource allocations for their colonies. When we realized the council wouldn't act, we made our choice. Director Chen explained. Humanity would have to act alone. We diverted all our resources to 2 projects. First, a shield technology that could deflect the void current around the galaxy. Second, this continuity sphere, a repository for human consciousness and knowledge. The gateway we found, Talia interjected. That was part of your shield? Yes, confirmed Director Chen. We constructed 7 gateways at strategic points around the galaxy's perimeter. Together, they generate a deflection field that will divert the void current. The technology required? Sacrifices. What kind of sacrifices? Asked Thex, his voice low with dread. The gateways are powered by consciousnesses, human minds linked to the technology. Every human in the galaxy volunteered, understanding what was at stake. Our bodies were discarded as our minds transferred into the gateway network. Horror swept through the bridge crew as understanding dawned. Every human, whispered Telia. All 17 billion of you. All except the 1,000 of us here in the continuity sphere, confirmed Director Chen. We remain to maintain the system and to rebuild humanity once the danger has passed, in approximately 400 years. Warlord Krask's hologram appeared, his fierce features unusually subdued. You sacrificed your entire species to save a galaxy that dismissed you. We didn't do it for recognition, Director Chen replied simply. We did it because we could. Because no one else had the technology or was willing to make the sacrifice. The countdowns, Talia realized. They're not counting to something ending. They're counting to something beginning. The activation of the shield. Correct, said Director Chen. When the timers reach 0, the shield will activate fully. The galaxy will be safe. And the system failures throughout the galaxy, asked Sextoral. Unavoidable consequences of our departure. Director Chen explained. We maintained so many critical systems for so long that the knowledge of how they worked was lost to your civilizations. We tried to leave manuals, training programs, but they were ignored or archived without review. Elder Tylos stepped forward, his ancient face lined with shame. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apologies. We failed to recognize both your warnings and your contributions. Apologies are unnecessary, Elder, replied Director Chen. But action is. The shield will protect the galaxy, but your civilizations must learn to maintain the infrastructure we left behind. The continuity sphere contains complete documentation for all human technology. We offer it freely, along with our assistance in training your people. Admiral Thex straightened, determination replacing his shock. We accept your offer, Director Chen, and I promise you, humanity's sacrifice will never be forgotten again. When you emerge from this sphere in 400 years, you will find a galaxy worthy of your return, one that remembers and honors what you've done. That, said Director Chen, is all we ever wanted, to be remembered as more than just an unremarkable species from a backwater solar system, to leave a legacy worth the name humanity. As the communication ended, the assembled representatives of the galaxy's greatest civilizations stood in silence, humbled by the realization that they had never truly known their human neighbors until they were gone. The species they had dismissed as short-lived, unpredictable, and unremarkable had proven to be the most remarkable of all. In their silent service and their final sacrifice, humans had demonstrated what truly made them unique. Not their technology, but their willingness to give everything for others, even those who had never appreciated them. The galaxy would never make that mistake again.